Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon with the Chabad House of Delmar, together with my co-host of Marc Gronich, who's jbiztechvalley.com and statewide news. We have a very, very special guest with us, Mr. Lou Corsi, who's the chief of police of the town of Bethlehem. Welcome to the Jewish View, Mr. Corsi.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. It's been, I have a lot of questions I've been building up to want to ask you about.
I hope they're not going to be too difficult.
So, what is the state of the town in terms of crime, in terms of the safety and police, and what?
Well, Bethlehem is generally a very safe community, but we're not immune from crime. So we take a proactive approach, usually a three-prong. One is enforcement, the other is education, and then prevention programs to try to help with the community, the business community, and so on.
So, and that seems to be working, because it could be worse if it wasn't?
I think it's working.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what, do you have statistics to help us out
Yeah,
with?
if you look, we report under the IBR reporting method to FBI and the Division of Criminal Justice Services. If you compare us to an agency, let's say similar size, Guilderland, for example, our Part 1 and Part 2 offenses are half of what the town of Guilderland report.
Now, what are Part 1 and Part 2 mean?
Well, the more difficult crime,
Murders?
yes, of course.
Okay.
Part 1. Part 2 offenses, less.
Speeding tickets?
Well, it wouldn't fall under traffic tickets, but simple assaults and such.
I see.
Yeah.
What do you attribute that to then?
I really believe that it's a strong enforcement effort on the part of patrol officers. Very diligent background with the detective office, where a lot of stuff is, finished. We really put our teeth into it. So I think overall it's an effort, a total department effort.
Do you have in New York City and other parts of the state, they have this problem with stop and frisk. Do you have a thought about that in general, or what is that? How does it relate to the town of Bethlehem?
Well, recently, because of the media coverage out of the city of New York, a lot of courts are looking at the stop and frisk. Our approach is somewhat not as aggressive as the city of New York. There are certain circumstances where we would do that, but they would have to meet certain criteria. Well, generally, under a Terry stop, that's under the law. If, the crime may have been committed, or you believe that crime has been committed, or in the progress, you have the right to hold that person. If you feel for any reason that they may have perhaps weapons that may be harmful either to yourself or others, you have the right to frisk them. It's a safety issue. So stop and frisk in that regard we would do.
What about someone a police officer who knows a certain neighborhood, sees a stranger, someone who really doesn't belong, so to speak? Do they just stop them and frisk?
I think a lot of times one of the best approaches is that we just come up and say, hello, who are you? Why are you here? Do you live here? That type of thing.
That's it?
Yeah.
So it's not stop and frisk?
Not really.
No, not really.
No, you're free to go.
Okay. What's your general thought about stop and frisk?
There's a need for it in certain situations. I mean, each one varies.
Yeah. So you don't think it should be outlawed, or you just think it should be limited?
No, New York City issues are particular to the city. Their protocols are totally different than what we adhere to here. A stop and frisk is, we have to have reasonable cause, to engage, and so at that point, then a stop and frisk may happen.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's generally it.
What do you see as the most nuisance type of crime that impacts Bethlehem?
Nuisance crime.
Nuisance crime.
Well, you can break that out in a lot of different ways. We have a lot of crimes against property crimes, simple assaults, youth's annoying, graffiti to some extent. We work, diligently on that. But there's no one thing I would imagine. I can't think of one thing that stands out.
When you drive around the town of Bethlehem going to work from home to work or whatever. What do you see that annoys you? That says, I really have to. Nothing's perfect, so
No.
I have to change this. This has to be. What irks you?
Well, it's a bedroom community for the most part. Traffic in the neighborhoods. There's a lot of kids. They're out in the streets. They're on the sidewalks. That bothers me. People need to slow down. You have to remember that this is a suburban area, and it's not a highway. And so we direct some special attention to certain areas to educate operators, slow down.
Someone mentioned to me, one of our congregants, that we have these big box stores there, and maybe it's good for the taxes. We did have the town supervisor, we like them because, they're bringing taxes. But on the other hand, he said the crime rate, because you're getting people from other neighborhoods being bussed, public transportation, not bussed in. And the crime rate has gone up. He says almost every day. I don't know how he knows that almost every day there's some kind of, like a shoplifting or,
Sure.
It's just a strain on the police department to,
Yeah.
like a one officer every day has to deal with these guys. So, maybe you gained in taxes, but you lost in quality of, the police department bringing all these kind of people in, and the police have to deal with these guys.
It definitely draws on our resources. But anytime you open a business, there's draw on your resource. So, Walmart is a big draw. It brings a lot of people in from the surrounding area, and a lot of shoplifting.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're down there quite a bit.
I don't want to belabor this. It's just a question that I just happened to be watching CBS, and they did a 48 Hours episode with Peter Van Sant about the Porco case.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw that CBS thing, but
I might have, I can't.
But I was going to ask you if you felt that you were portrayed, fairly in that. But
I didn't really
Okay.
look at it in that perspective. It's entertainment for the most part when they try to do this, the recreation of it. It wasn't really a documentary.
Right.
And I saw a little bit of it, but
Did they interview you personally, and just your take on beforehand, not afterwards?
yes, on 48 Hours
Yeah.
did
Yeah.
with Porco.
I
None
didn't
of
see- I
it
didn't
made
see
it to
it.
the
Really?
to the show.
Show,
No,
no?
they did about a half an hour with me on various things, but nothing.
Well-
I think the term is I was cut and it ended up on the floor.
Well, you're going to make it on this show.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
We wouldn't
There
have a
you
show
go.
if we cut you, so we're not going to cut you. But what was what are your general thoughts of, now that you had several years to think about
Yeah.
this? Do you look back and say, we could have done this differently, or
I-
this should be different?
I think
or-
you always do. That's a
Yeah,
human thing.
Exactly.
Where you look back and you wish that you had done certain things differently. But all in all, and for the most part, given the publicity of that murder and that investigation, probably one of the most high-profile cases in Albany County, there was a lot of pressure to keep the lid on things. There were a lot of leaks of information, and that was not good. And we were all over the state as well as the country, following down leads on that. It was just an enormous undertaking. And there were some 16 other agencies involved worldwide with this.
Wow.
That we had to track down a lot of information. So I think when you look at it and all the leads that you followed, the ability to handle all of that from a municipality the size of Bethlehem,
Yeah.
we didn't do it alone. We had great cooperation with New York State Police, federal agencies.
I remember reading that, though, people were editorializing and saying that Bethlehem police were over their heads. Because you say it's one of the biggest things, and, you don't have the biggest crime, thank God, here. So obviously the bottom line is, well, he's guilty. So obviously he did a good job. The bottom line is the bottom line. You got him guilty. If maybe non-guilty, everybody would have had your head over here, I'm sure.
Maybe.
But,
Did you take offense when people said
No.
it was over your head?
No.
Did you find it a fair criticism?
No, not at all. I know the capabilities of the Bethlehem Police Department. I would put that agency up against any other agency
So
in
you
the
did
state.
take offense?
No, not really.
No.
I didn't. We had a job to do.
Yeah.
I was more focused on, the job, the investigation,
Right,
rather
right,
than
right.
what people had to say at the time.
I mean after. When you're everything just when you decompress.
Yeah.
And you look at it and you go, man, those guys, they were so unfair to us, right? Saying we were over our heads.
No, it didn't bother me.
No.
No.
Okay. How big is the police force?
Right now, we're at 37 sworn, and with civilian staff, about 51.
Uh-huh.
But we've been reduced greatly over the last 3 or 4 years.
And do you have slots that are open that you need to fill, like a deputy or something? Or?
Well, I do. There's a deputy chief's position that's open, and I've had conversations with the town supervisor and the town board briefly about filling that, and we're in budget right now, so we'll see where that pans out.
But you're pushing to get that
Well,
filled?
I'm looking at the alternatives. I have some rank and file positions that need to be filled. I had a conversation with the supervisor early in the year saying that I wanted to defer the deputy chief's position until we backfill.
Uh-huh.
And we'll take on the extra work in the administrative wing, but it's important to backfill those patrol positions and road supervision. And so once we're there, then we can take a look ahead.
And what about the school, the school officer? There was someone who retired, and there's one guy now with 2 or 3 schools, and
The school resource officer,
right.
family services. I'm really glad to say that at this point right now, our detective unit and family services unit is back up to full strength.
Oh, good.
And so we're going to be able to handle all of those things that we have always handled in the past.
Yeah.
And so we're comfortable in that regard.
But you had a low point
Yes, we did.
last year.
Yeah, we did.
When they hire a Bethlehem police, just even basic knowledge of it, I mean, is it a promotion from maybe like from Albany Police, hey, I'd like to get in Bethlehem, nice suburb, instead of, or you get recruits? How do they
It
even hire? I
depends.
just don't even
There
know.
are times when we take what's called lateral transfers from one agency to another, one civil service officer from one agency to another civil service position in another agency. Other times we've hired recruits, gone through an extensive background with them, got them ready for the academy. They're sent to the academy, 26 weeks of training.
Mm-hmm.
They come back, another up to 6 months of field training, and then we cut them loose and they fill a slot.
What's starting salary for?
I knew you were going to ask me that.
Approximately.
I think it's about 46,
Okay.
46,000. Yeah.
And what do you earn as the top cop?
What do I earn?
It's a public information. It's nothing. I just didn't look it up ahead of time. So.
I make 110,000.
Okay. All right. So that's the range of the
Yeah.
lowest to the highest. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, in the state, there are commissioners who earn less than their assistant and deputy commissioners, and there are reasons for that. Does that happen in the town where?
It hasn't so far.
No. Okay.
You mean salary compressions in it?
Yeah.
No,
there's-
it hasn't so far.
Okay. What's the? Is there a problem in terms of the Albany-Bethlehem border, in terms of people coming over from the Albany side to Bethlehem and disrespecting the speed limits? And because I got stopped one time, and the officer said that there's a border problem. When I had the mayor of Albany on, he says, "No, there's no problem."
No
So-
border problem.
No border problem. So
I don't know
figured
if you
I'd
can
ask
classify it as a border problem. We have a lot of through traffic in the town of Bethlehem. In today's society, everybody's in a rush to get somewhere yesterday, and that's unfortunate. So no, I wouldn't necessarily say we have a border issue with the city of Albany.
Well, your officer said that it was, so I thought I would let you know.
Okay.
And I made a $125 contribution to the town.
Oh, okay.
What do you want, a charity tax receipt over here? Maybe you want-
But it's the only one. I never had one since.
Well, that's a pretty good record.
That's a pretty good record, I'm very careful. The speed limits change.
They do.
It goes from 20 to 30 to 40 to 45.
Yeah.
And without notice. I mean, sometimes
Well, they do notice, but maybe you don't know. I mean, I've seen that.
they have
they have
speed
30.
zone change, but not always, like on Kenwood and stuff. And so I just get, it takes me some time to get used to those speed limit changes. It seems to me that some of these roads are the same size and, but they seem to have different speed limits when it should be the same speed limit. And how do you determine the speed limit for a certain road?
You look at different road systems. The state roads are dictated, those speed limits, by the state of New York. County roads and town roads can come under the jurisdiction of the town of Bethlehem, those that run within a town. And most town roads in the town of Bethlehem are at 30 miles an hour. Those are your secondary streets off of your main roads.
Uh-huh.
So for the most part, you'll see 40s that go into 30s, back
Yeah.
up to 45,
Right.
depending upon whether you're on a state highway, a county road, or a town road.
Okay, so it's not, and there's no way of communicating with the state or
Oh.
and say, let's make this uniform so we make this.
No, we've always had discussions with Department of Transportation over speed when our people indicate that there's either an engineering problem or a speed problem in a certain area backed up by data, crash data. We'll make recommendations for reductions in speed.
But shouldn't it be more uniform anyway? Like one road shouldn't have three different types of speed limits?
It depends. Like if you look at Delaware Avenue going into the city of Albany, once you get by CVS, that speed limit drops. You have a school right there.
Right.
Then it picks up again, and then once you cross the bridge into Albany,
It's
you
30.
go back down again. So it's up and down all the way out past the high school.
You know, we had we had town supervisors, I think we have once a year, and they were just growing that it was so good, the roundabouts,
Oh, yeah.
you know, because it was good. And then again, someone told me, that's why I'm bringing it up, said, oh yeah, but it's dangerous because there's a lot more crashes, traffic accidents with roundabouts more than a normal traffic light.
Is that a perception or is that a
Well,
reality?
there's an educational component to roundabouts. And what I can tell you right now is the statistics and the data show that those T-bone crashes at intersections, I mean, they can take a toll. I mean, there's consequences of a fatality. The roundabouts bring them down to small fender benders and keep traffic moving. I see it more with two-lane roundabouts where you have some confusion. Single-lane roundabouts aren't as bad. But it is another thing, as I said earlier. Take your time with where you're going. You can't drive at 45 miles an hour and hit that roundabout and go around at 45 miles an hour. Some common sense has to play. But for the most part,
I've seen some crazies go through the
Oh, I know.
roundabouts. Oh, my
I know.
gosh.
they're used all over the country. They're a calming effect in traffic. They're supposed to slow traffic. And, you yield once you're in the roundabout. Those vehicles entering that roundabout should yield to you while you're in there, and then you just proceed accordingly. But I'm in favor of them. I like them. I like the way they manage traffic. And serious injuries get reduced quite significantly.
Yeah, I never saw an accident, just someone said that to me, so I was just asking you if that's, again, perception or it's the truth, because there used to always be people coming on the 85,
Yeah.
and you'd sit there, rush hour for 10 minutes, and now it just keeps flowing,
Well, when
so.
they put all of those roundabouts in Slingerlands, I went through them all. I said, "My God, I'm going to need Dramamine by the time I get to the end of this, But it's
Technology Park
just
and
it's
Blessing
all
Road,
over.
is
Same
that what
thing
you're
up in
talking
Malta.
about?
Yeah, Malta's the same way.
Yeah.
You go through, a half a dozen of them before you get to the
That's right.
Northway, right?
Yeah. Now, do you have you seen accident? I mean, because I've seen accidents. I've seen the police cars off to the side taking the information, from an accident. Do you look at those reports and see what caused it? And
Yeah.
is it always carelessness? Is it always speeding? Is
I
it
don't think you
always-
can put your thumb on any one thing. A lot of it is driver inattention we look at today, and a lot of that has to do with texting and cell phones. I mean, there's a place for it. Put the phone down if you're going to drive.
Mhm.
That's basically it. Hang up the phone.
Mhm.
All right, stop texting. You take your eyes off the road. It's not good.
Generally speaking, can a citizen write down a license plate number, call it into the town police, and sort of make a citizen's arrest of some sort?
Well, I wouldn't go so far as a citizen's arrest. They can call us with a complaint concerning a traffic violation. The issue that's hard for us is can that complainant identify that operator? And that always becomes, not always, but for the most part, that becomes problematic.
What do you think of residents, an average everyday citizen, having a dash cam?
That'd be wonderful.
Would
But,
it-
well,
Now, where is
certainly.
it over here?
Well, the police have a dash cam on the camera, on their car, on their dashboard. They have a camera.
Yeah.
And so when something, when they stop a car, the camera's rolling so they could see if they're, if there's going to be some incident when they approach the car, they could see what's happening. It's sort of a protection for the policeman as well as for the resident also. But when a resident sees something or needs protection, they don't have a dash cam on their car, so they it's his word against mine.
Yeah.
And therefore you just don't know what's...
That becomes cost prohibitive too.
Does it?
I mean, they're expensive. I think they're over $5,000 a piece for the ones that we have.
Well, yeah, but I'm talking, now you can put a small camera, a light bulb. I mean,
Yeah.
you can put them anywhere. So you don't need
I'm sure there's a
broadcast
place
quality.
for. I'm sure there's a place for that.
You know,
Anytime you can have an opportunity to look at more facts, that's wonderful.
so you're in favor of the...
Oh,
Yeah.
Sure, why not?
Because I think that's, if I had to spend extra money on a new car that would have the better stereo or a dash cam, I would, as small as it is, I would take the dash cam in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Because I think it protects us as the citizen against what a police
very-
officer might say happened, and then you got your proof,
Sure.
and you could say, you can defend yourself better,
Sure.
is my
You
thinking.
might want to patent that.
I
Move that forward.
think it's patented. But I'm just saying, but I didn't know if you felt that was maybe from a police perspective not a good idea for one reason or another.
No, I have nothing negative
Well,
to
did
say.
they ask you
about
on the latest thing, because they're asking, for obviously police officer, chief of police, the SAFE Act. I mean, do you think that's good legislation? I mean, to me, I don't feel any safer, to tell you the truth. I don't see anybody shooting off guns in Bethlehem. So, doesn't do anything. But then, of course, people with their citizens' rights, constitutional rights. Do you think it's going to be, police will be safer, citizens will be safer, or it's just a little bit of a
I answered
political
a
thing?
couple comments for a newspaper and different, I think it was one of the TV stations. And quite honestly, the bottom line is my personal feeling on the SAFE Act is that's my personal feeling. When it comes to enforcing the law, we will enforce the law that is on the book.
So what's your personal feeling?
What's my personal feeling? Well, I look at it in two different lights. One is I try very hard to consider the fact that the legislature and the governor's office tried to move legislation that would reduce the amount of rounds, the capacity that you could carry. The other side of the coin is you can always reload. It's not going to stop black market weapons and black market clips and ammunition. The most people that'll feel that right now will be those honest, abiding citizens. But when you think of it, really, do you need a 18 or 22 round clip? I just don't see the need for it. So, bottom line is, we'll enforce the law as it stands. That's our job.
So, personally, are you...
Well, you're not going to let this go,
Are
are
you
you?
in favor or are you not in favor? I just wasn't...
How about I tell you I'm on the fence on this one?
Okay.
Huh? How's that?
All right.
You said you had a personal opinion, so I thought I would ask what it was for or against. Okay.
2 more minutes over here.
2 more minutes.
Yeah.
Oh, how did you get into wanting to be a police officer?
Oh, boy. When I was a kid, that's all I dreamed about doing.
Played cops and robbers? What'd you say?
I did it all. And, I had some role models that were troopers, and very influential in my life. And that's it. I just followed that career path, and here I am today, 34 years later.
What were you were you a road patrol officer? Or before you were
I've held
chief?
almost every rank in the Bethlehem Police Department. Yeah, I was a patrol officer.
When did you start?
I came here to Bethlehem in 1985, but I started my career in 1979 with the town of Queens.
Okay. So
And I worked for the Sheriff's Department in Albany County for 4 years and then came here.
Oh, so you were really...
I've been around a little.
Well, I'm just saying, you were born and bred here.
Yes, I've lived in, actually I grew up in Selkirk.
Okay. And you still in Selkirk?
No, I live here in Delmar.
In Delmar?
Yeah.
Good.
Marc, it was very interesting thing. Marc Gronich, thank Lou Corsi, the chief of police. Now we feel a little bit more safer, that we know we're in good hands over here. Thank you very much for being
Thanks
able
for
to
having
me.
me with
being
Would
a
you?
blessing. You should only have a long life with health and safety and continue to grow and do good things.
That was worth coming over for.
Okay.
It was good. Thank you.
Thank you.